Hey everyone, Linus here. Today, we're diving into the world of web security. Specifically, we're talking about how to keep your APIs safe from unauthorized access. Think of an API like a waiter at a restaurant. It takes your order, goes to the kitchen, and brings back your food. Now imagine if anyone could walk up to that waiter and start placing orders. It would be chaos. That's why we need something called Access Control Allow Origin, or CORS for short. It's like a bouncer for your website, making sure only the right people can make requests. We're going to break down what CORS is, why it's important, and how to set it up. We'll even look at how to beef up security with AWS CloudFront, which is like hiring a whole security team for your website. By the end of this, you'll have a good understanding of how to keep your APIs safe and sound. So, let's get started. Access Control Allow Origin is a header that tells your browser which websites are allowed to make requests to your server. It's part of a security mechanism called CORS, or Cross-Origin Resource Sharing. Imagine you have a website, example.com. You also have an API on api.example.com. By default, your browser won't allow your website to make requests to your API just because they share the same base domain. This is a good thing. It prevents malicious websites from hijacking your users' browsers and stealing their data. But it also means you need to explicitly tell your browser that it's okay for your website to talk to your API. That's where CORS comes in. The Access Control Allow Origin header is how you give permission. You can set it to specific domains like https://www.example.com, or you can use a wildcard asterisk to allow requests from any origin. We'll talk more about why using a wildcard can be risky later on. CORS is crucial for web security. It acts as a gatekeeper, preventing unauthorized access to your resources. Without it, malicious websites could easily make requests to your API on behalf of your users. Let's say a user is logged into your website, which stores their sensitive information like payment details. If you don't have CORS set up correctly, an attacker could create a malicious website that sends hidden requests to your API. The attacker's website could potentially access the user's data without their knowledge or consent. This is why having the Access Control Allow Origin header configured properly is non-negotiable. It ensures that only trusted origins can interact with your API and access sensitive information. Remember, security is all about layers. CORS is just one layer, but it's a fundamental one that helps protect your users and your data. Setting up Access Control Allow Origin is easier than you might think. You do it directly on your web server. Popular options like Nginx and Apache have straightforward ways to configure this header. For Nginx, you'd add a line like to your server configuration. This would allow requests from the specified domain. Apache users can achieve the same thing using the directive. Remember to reload your server configuration after making changes for them to take effect. While these examples are simple, they demonstrate the basic principle of setting the header on the server side. Section 5. Using frameworks to manage CORS, less typing, more security. Most modern web development frameworks provide built-in ways to handle CORS. This is great because it often involves less manual configuration and offers more flexibility. For example, in Node.js with Express, you can use the middleware. Just install it with and then add a few lines of code to your app. JavaScript const express =sign require express. Const CORS =sign require CORS. Const app =sign express. App use CORS, origin, https://www.example.com, / your other routes go here. This code snippet tells Express to allow requests from the specified origin. Many other frameworks, such as Django for Python or Ruby on Rails, have similar middleware or plugins available. Using frameworks simplifies the process and helps you implement CORS securely. Section 6. AWS API Gateway, your CORS control center in the cloud. If you're using AWS API Gateway, you're in luck. It has built-in support for configuring CORS. You can easily set up allowed origins, headers, and methods directly within the AWS Management Console. API Gateway lets you define CORS settings for each of your API endpoints. You can specify allowed origins, HTTP methods like GET, POST, and PUT, and even control which headers are allowed in requests. This centralized control makes it incredibly convenient to manage CORS for APIs hosted on AWS. It's a powerful tool that simplifies CORS configuration while maintaining a high level of security. Section 7. CloudFront to the rescue. adding an extra layer of protection. AWS CloudFront is a content delivery network, or CDN, that can do wonders for your website's performance. But it also acts as a powerful reverse proxy, enhancing your website's security, including CORS protection. When you put CloudFront in front of your API, it becomes the intermediary between the internet and your origin server. This setup brings several security advantages. Firstly, it hides your origin server's IP address from the public, making it a less appealing target for direct attacks. Secondly, CloudFront allows you to implement security measures at the edge, closer to your users. This includes fine-grained control over CORS headers, caching rules, and even integration with AWS WAF, or Web Application Firewall, for advanced protection. Section 8. Locking down CloudFront. Because not everyone gets a backstage pass, CloudFront gives you granular control over who can access your content. You can restrict access to specific IP addresses, geographic locations, or even referrers. For example, if you only want users in North America to access your API, you can configure CloudFront to block requests from other regions. This level of control helps you minimize the risk of unauthorized access. You can also use CloudFront to enforce HTTPS, which is SSL/TLS encryption. This ensures that all communication between your users and CloudFront, and between CloudFront and your origin server, is encrypted and secure. Section 9. Whitelisting and validation, making sure only the right people get in. When configuring CORS, it's crucial to be as restrictive as possible. Avoid using the wildcard asterisk for allowed origins unless absolutely necessary. Instead, explicitly whitelist the domains that are allowed to make requests to your API. Additionally, validate the origin header in your application logic. While the browser enforces CORS on the client side, a determined attacker can modify or spoof headers. By validating the origin header on your server, you add an extra layer of security and prevent potentially malicious requests from slipping through. Section 10. API keys and IAM, like having a VIP pass and bodyguards. While CORS is essential, it's just one piece of the security puzzle. Implementing API key authentication adds another layer of protection. By requiring clients to include a valid API key with their requests, you can control who can access your API and track usage. If you're on AWS, leverage AWS Identity and Access Management, or IAM, to manage access to your resources. IAM allows you to create users and groups and grant them specific permissions. This means you can control who can make changes to your API gateway settings, CloudFront configuration, and other critical infrastructure. Combining CORS, API keys, and IAM provides robust security for your APIs and applications. Section 11. Stay updated, stay secure. The internet's a constantly changing place. The world of web security is a dynamic one. New threats emerge constantly, so staying informed and keeping your security measures up to date is crucial. Regularly review your CORS settings, validate your whitelists, and ensure your server software and frameworks are patched and updated. Consider implementing security best practices beyond CORS, such as input validation, output encoding, and protection against common web vulnerabilities like cross-site scripting, or XSS, and SQL injection. Remember, security is not a one-time task, but an ongoing process. By staying vigilant and proactive, you can protect your applications, your data, and your users from the ever-evolving landscape of online threats.